The day Elara, the woman he had always pined for, arrived on our doorstep with a suitcase and a visible baby bump, my husband, Julian, morphed into a model of domestic devotion. He began rushing home from his architecture firm the moment the clock struck 5, forgoing the late nights and client dinners that were once his norm. My friends at the marketing agency sighed with envy, their voices laced with admiration. "You're so lucky, Clara," they'd say. "Julian is a saint, a real family man." All I could offer in return was a tight, brittle smile. They didn't understand that he wasn't rushing home for me. He was rushing home for Elara. I had wept. I had screamed. I had thrown accusations like shattered glass across our minimalist living room. He would just look at me, his eyes full of a pained exasperation, and say, "Clara, why can't you be more understanding? I have a responsibility. I need to atone for the past." The past, a history they shared that I was never part of, a regret that had now taken up residence in my guest room. One evening, after watching him meticulously fluff the pillows behind Elara's back with a tenderness he hadn't shown me in months, a cold, heavy silence settled in my chest. The arguments were useless. I turned and walked out the front door, the chill of the autumn air a physical shock after the stifling atmosphere of my own home. My heart felt like a shard of ice in my chest. I had only made it a few steps down the path when a figure moved from the shadows of the large oak tree that lined our street, blocking my way. "Clara, long time no see." I looked up, my breath catching in my throat. It was Leo, the man whose quiet intelligence had captivated me all through university, the one who had gotten away after a graduation that sent us spiraling in different directions. But the Leo the first remembered, the confident, steady geology student, was gone. This man leaned heavily on a polished wooden cane, his posture slumped. His clothes, though clean, were slightly rumpled. Yet his eyes, those same deep, thoughtful eyes, held their familiar gentle softness as they looked at me. My own eyes instantly welled up with tears. In that single, heart-stopping moment, gazing at his fragile state, a stark and painful understanding of Julian's behavior slammed into me. I finally got it. This desperate, clawing need to care for someone from your past, to mend what was broken. Without a second thought, I reached out and grasped his free hand. It was cold. "Come home with me," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "I'll take care of you. Where have you been all this time? Hurry, come inside. You'll catch a chill." I pulled him gently towards the house, pushing the door open. "Hi guys. Please support the channel by subscribing and get all your completed novels and full stories in one place." "Elara is sensitive to drafts," I called out, my voice taking on a new, purposeful edge. "Also, her morning sickness is severe, so her meals need to be carefully managed. I have to prepare her special prenatal dishes. You probably shouldn't eat those, they're very bland." Julian was standing in the archway to the living room, a dish towel thrown over his shoulder, frozen in place. I had no time to acknowledge his stunned expression. I was entirely focused on guiding Leo over the threshold. "Careful now," I murmured, my arm around his back for support. "I'll have someone replace this door tomorrow. The threshold is too high. It's a hazard." Leo didn't move further. He let out a deep, weary sigh. "Clara, I appreciate your kindness, truly. But it's not proper for me to stay in your home. I can manage on my own." He hadn't even finished his sentence before his right leg, the one he was favoring, began to tremble violently. I quickly shifted my weight, letting him lean more heavily on me, my heart clenching with a familiar, protective ache. "Manage? How can you possibly manage by yourself? In your condition? How can you expect me not to worry?" Leo remained stubbornly planted at the doorway, a proud man desperately trying not to be a burden. It was a far cry from the fearless rock climber I'd once known. Seeing him so diminished was an unbearable pain. I followed his hesitant gaze and saw Julian, his face like thunder. "You want to let a man," Julian said, his voice low and grave, "live in our house? Did you even think to ask for my opinion?" At the sound of Julian's voice, Leo's legs seemed to give way again, and he subtly leaned into me once more. My heart clenched tighter, and anger, hot and immediate, surged within me. What's wrong with letting him stay? He's disabled, Julian. What could he possibly do? He's already in this state. Don't you have any compassion? Julian scoffed, a harsh, ugly sound. What does a disabled man's problems have to do with me? If people found out my wife brought another man into our home, the humiliation would be unimaginable.
No.
I don't agree. I was about to retort, to unleash all the pent-up fury of the last few months, when a weak, delicate voice floated from the master bedroom. Julian, where did you go? I'm feeling lightheaded. Please come here. A strange sense of calm washed over me. I looked directly at Julian, my voice dripping with sarcasm. And if people found out that my husband brought a pregnant woman home, I wonder who would be laughed out of the country club then? Julian's eyes widened, then narrowed into slits. How dare you? How dare you speak about Elara that way? I didn't flinch. Why wouldn't I dare? From the bedroom, the soft sobs began. Julian panicked, his anger towards me warring with his instinct to run to her. He gritted his teeth, the muscles in his jaw twitching. Don't you dare disturb Elara, he hissed, a clear surrender. He turned and rushed towards the inner room. I knew he was backing down, agreeing to my terms for Elara's sake. It was a truce forged in mutual manipulation. I helped Leo walk fully inside. His legs had long since lost their strength. Once in the living room, I guided him to the plush sofa. He still whispered, Clara, I feel like I'm intruding on your life. I only meant to see if you were happy from a distance. That's my fault. I think it's better if I don't drag you into my troubles. A derisive snort came from the kitchen doorway. Julian was back, watching us. If you know you're interfering, why the theatrics? It's hypocritical. I ignored him, focusing on settling Leo's cane safely against the sofa. Don't mind him, I said gently. He's always been like this. Just relax and make yourself at home. I then picked up Leo's small, worn duffel bag and carried it directly towards the guest bedroom. Stop, Julian snapped. Are you actually going to let him sleep here? Letting him through the door was my biggest concession. Are you pushing your luck? Absolutely not. I didn't stop. I continued pulling the luggage into the bedroom. Julian, his hands still smeared with olive oil from preparing Elara's salad, rushed over and grabbed my wrist. Have you lost your mind? I wrenched my hand away. Elara gets claustrophobic and can only sleep in a spacious room. I've already given up the master bedroom. Didn't you say I could use the guest room however I pleased? When we first married, we were young and optimistic. We'd bought a modest 2-bedroom condo, dreaming of building a life together. The master bedroom had been taken over by Elara with a cascade of half-hearted tears and complaints of negative energy. My presence, my things, were deemed suffocating. So, I, along with all my belongings, had been unceremoniously relocated to the guest room. Julian froze, the memory of that incident seemingly dawning on him. His tone softened slightly, though a deep frown remained etched on his face. This isn't the same. Then what is it about? I asked, genuinely puzzled. Leo is mobility impaired. His legs are still healing. Where else is he supposed to sleep? Julian's temper flared again, his face flushing a deep crimson. He was a man, after all. Seeing his jealous, possessive reaction, a thought finally clicked into place. Weren't these the exact lines I had screamed at him weeks ago? I sighed, realizing a different approach was needed. Julian, I began, my voice calm. I was wrong. His stance softened immediately. Good. You understand. I looked into his eyes, feigning sincerity. I finally understand how you feel inside. Elara is the woman you always idealized. Seeing her suffer, your heart aches. I felt the same way today when I saw Leo. I don't think I can just stand by and let him fend for himself either. I took a steadying breath. How about this? You take care of Elara and I'll take care of Leo. We can coexist. You atone for your past regrets, and I fulfill a wish from my past. It's a win-win. Julian, however, blurted out. Absurd. That's absolutely ridiculous. Isn't it perfect? I asked, tilting my head. Besides, you were the one who let Elara move in first. So, if anyone's being absurd, you started it. Julian stood frozen, unable to form a coherent argument. His face was still flushed, his mind seemingly unable to process this new, twisted equilibrium. Elara chose that moment to call out again, her voice laced with a practiced distress. Julian, my back. I can't get comfortable. Julian didn't rush in immediately this time. He stood still, quietly observing me. Clara, is this your way of getting back at me? Elara's voice grew more insistent. I had no time for his introspection. Getting back at you? Don't be dramatic. Just go. Elara is pregnant. If something happens to her, you'd never forgive yourself. He finally left, half reluctant. I breathed a sigh of relief and sped up my tidying. Leo was sensitive. I needed to get back to him. The next morning, as I carried a plate of freshly made breakfast pastries from the kitchen, I ran into Julian stepping out of the master bedroom. He stammered an explanation. Elara had a restless night. I was up with her until dawn. I looked at him, surprised. Wasn't this his new normal? Why was he suddenly explaining it to me? I nodded indifferently and moved to walk past him. Just as I did, I heard his delighted voice. Clara, I knew it. You still care. These ham and cheese croissants are my favorite. I slapped his hand away as he reached for one. What are you doing? Doesn't Elara get terribly nauseous from the smell of cooked meat? These are for Leo. With that, I turned and walked toward the living room without a backward glance. I loved a hearty breakfast, but since Elara's arrival, my right to eat meat in my own home had been revoked. If I dared to eat a spicy sausage roll at the office and came home with even a trace of the scent on me, she would stage a full-scale melodrama. She wouldn't confront me directly, of course. She'd just cover her nose, her eyes welling up, and retreat to the bathroom, the sound of the sink running loudly as she pretended to be sick. Yet I'd later find the packaging for gourmet salami and pepperoni in the outside trash. Julian's only defense was, she's pregnant. Her cravings are unpredictable. Why are you picking on her? I shook my head, clearing the bitter memories. I walked into the living room to see Leo, who had been smiling warmly at me, immediately revert to a cautious, closed-off demeanor. I turned and saw Julian had been following me the whole time. Clara, you've gone to so much trouble. I'm so useless, Leo whispered, his voice full of self-reproach. I wish my legs weren't like this. You stayed up late looking after me, and now you've made me breakfast. Seeing his pained expression, I hurried forward. Not at all. I'm doing this willingly. And your leg, it was injured saving that little boy from running into traffic. Because of you, he's safe and sound. I wanted to say more, but Marcus, behind me, exploded. I thought we agreed I'd sleep in the home office, and you have the guest room. Clara, you actually stayed up all night with him in there? As his words hung in the air, I noticed Leo bow his head in shame. Anger immediately surged within me. Julian, his leg is injured. Of course I had to check on him. Isn't that the same as you looking after Elara? Julian froze, then instinctively retorted. That's different. What's different about it? I interrupted sharply. I won't interfere with your concern for Elara, and you won't interfere with my concern for Leo. At my words, Julian was instantly silenced. He stood rooted to the spot, lost in thought. I had no time for him. I carried the plate to Leo. It's from that bakery you loved near campus. I got the extra sharp cheddar you like. Leo finally offered a small, grateful smile. Thank you, Clara. Julian, however, snatched the plate away. Clara? Since when is it Clara? You don't get to eat food my wife bought. You don't get to call my wife Clara. She has a name. It's Mrs. Thorne. Leo murmured, but she will always be my Clara. I looked at Julian, speechless. What is wrong with you? Elara called out again from the bedroom. This time, Julian remained unmoved, his eyes locked on me, a stubborn set to his jaw. Just as the standoff threatened to escalate, Elara herself walked out, her eyes red-rimmed. Julian, didn't you hear me? Or, do you think I'm a burden now too? Maybe I should just go. I'm only causing trouble here, anyway. If this were a month ago, I would have rolled my eyes. But now, I actually felt a pang of pity for her. It was a hollow, performative kind of pity, but it was there. Julian quickly denied it. Elara, don't say that. You're not a burden. I just didn't hear you. Wait here. I'll make you your breakfast right now. He scurried off to the kitchen. Watching him leave for her, I breathed a sigh of relief, grateful for her timely intervention. After breakfast, I faced a new problem. I had to go to work, but I was terrified of leaving Leo alone with them. Leo, perceptive as ever, said understandingly, Clara, you should go.
Don't worry about me.
I've managed on my own for a while. I can handle basic things. Julian came out of the kitchen just then, scoffing. What do you take me for? Some kind of monster who would harm a cripple. I gave an awkward laugh. How could I doubt my own husband's character? While he had been emotionally absent lately, Julian was, at his core, a good man. I had married him for his integrity, his loyalty to friends, his respect for his parents. Before Elara, we'd been happy. Professionally, he was a respected architect, known for his fairness. He donated to charities. I really shouldn't have doubted him. Reassured, I finally left for work. At the office, I was distracted, counting down the minutes until I could leave. The moment the clock hit 5, I rushed straight home. The moment I stepped through the door, I saw Leo on the floor by the sofa, looking disheveled and in pain. I ran to him.
Leo.
What happened?
He struggled to speak.
Clara, I'm fine. I just fell. Julian stood nearby, arms crossed, a smirk on his face. Of course he's fine. He's faking. Clara, don't fall for his act. Leo lowered his head, his lips pressed together, his eyes growing shiny with unshed tears. Clara, I truly am a burden. I only cause annoyance here. Please, just let me leave. That word, burden, echoed familiarly in my mind, but I didn't have time to place it. Julian actually agreed. I think he's right. He's too much trouble. Clara, let him go. Rage flared within me, but then I caught sight of Leo's red-rimmed eyes. Almost instantly, I calmed. In fact, my marriage to Julian was already a hollow shell. Perhaps separation was the only answer. Leo was injured. If he stayed, what other accidents might happen when I wasn't here? Leaving was the best option. I nodded. All right then. Julian said happily, Clara, it's good you've come to your senses. I looked at him seriously. Our current situation demands a resolution. Julian, let's get a divorce. He stared at me in disbelief. Clara, what are you saying? Are you going to divorce me for a man with crippled legs? I sneered back. Julian, do you think we still resemble a normal couple? It's quite fitting now. You have someone you want to care for, and I have someone I want to look after. Why don't we just separate? Julian couldn't find a reason to argue, merely repeating, no, that won't do. How can we separate? How can we? The last time I'd heard that desperate question was when we decided to date exclusively. After college, we were headed to different cities for our first jobs. We both knew a break was inevitable, but neither wanted to be the one to say it. We clung on until we couldn't. That day, we'd had too much to drink. He'd walked me to my dorm, and I'd finally spoken the words. Julian, let's break up. Despite the summer heat, the air between us had turned to ice. He'd been silent for a long time, just holding my hand tightly, repeating, how can we separate? Julian's voice pulled me back to the present. We overcame so much to be here, Clara. A year of long distance. You working so hard for that transfer, and now this. Only today did I truly understand. Perhaps we were just used to having each other around. The sudden reappearance of his idealized woman had severed our bond so easily. There's no need to drag this out, I said, my voice filled with a weary pain. Elara needs you more. Elara appeared, as if on cue. Julian, what's wrong? Are you arguing because of me? I knew I should have. For the first time, Julian interrupted her. It's fine, Elara. You're far along now. I'll make arrangements for you at the prenatal care center. You'll be more comfortable there, and it won't disrupt our home life." Elara was stunned. "Julian, what do you mean? Are you kicking me out? Did she complain about me? Saying I'm too much trouble? But you're the only one I have." No matter how she pulled at his arm, he didn't turn to look at her. He was deliberately avoiding her gaze. I almost felt a little sorry for her. "But you said she's pregnant and needs constant care," I said. "Would you really leave her alone at a care center? She's quite pitiful, really." Julian let out a bitter laugh. "Clara, are you trying to push your husband onto another woman?" I didn't understand the question. Even if I didn't push him, wasn't he already eagerly attending to her? Even if he was willing to send her away for my sake now, it felt like a temporary tactic. I couldn't predict if he would change his mind tomorrow, swayed by her tears. I dared not gamble anymore.
I didn't want to.
I looked at him, my resolve firm. "Julian, my mind is made up. Let's separate." He sneered, yet still held my hand tightly. "Clara, think this through. If you truly decide this, don't expect me to be waiting here if you change your mind." He was silent for a long time. Leo, however, took my arm and tried to persuade me. "Clara, please don't act impulsively because of me. Divorce is no small matter." "It's not because of you," I replied. Simultaneously, Julian interjected. "This is between my wife and me. What does it have to do with you? Don't stand there stammering." Leo immediately fell silent. Julian wasn't finished. "If it weren't for you, how would Clara and I have ended up like this?" I couldn't help but glare at him. How could he so easily forget the woman he had brought into our home? Elara tugged at him, her voice trembling. "Julian, don't be like this.
You're scaring me."
The baby, he's uncomfortable, too. What should we do?" He didn't seem to hear her, turning back to me. He became unnervingly calm. "Clara, we should cool off. No rash decisions. During this time, I'll get Elara settled at the center. I'll stay at the firm's corporate apartment. Once we've both had time to think, we'll talk properly." Elara's face fell. "Julian, a care center is so expensive. And it's so impersonal. I'll be so scared alone at night." These were all scenarios I had anticipated. I felt like an outsider watching a play, and now that I was no longer invested in their drama, I felt lighter. Julian also sank into thought. I couldn't help but chuckle. I had just asked him if he could bear to leave her alone. Now the problem had arrived. Julian glanced at me, then at Elara, and finally said, "Elara, I'll hire a private nurse. I'll visit often."
Her face truly went pale this time.
"Julian, are you being heartless? You know I can't be without you." I couldn't watch anymore. "Julian, she's so pitiful. I think you should just go stay with her. Afterwards, you'll have a legitimate reason to." He snapped. "How can I stay with another woman? Clara, we're not divorced yet. Until we are, I expect us both to refrain from any inappropriate behavior." I genuinely laughed then, a low whisper. "You and Elara have done plenty that's inappropriate. You've been staying with her for months. Why so scrupulous now?" He paused. "I'll be more careful in the future." Julian didn't have many belongings in the house anymore. He packed Elara's things efficiently. Just before leaving, he said to me, "The master bedroom is empty. Don't crowd in with him. He is a man, after all." The first day without Julian and Elara, Leo's spirits improved dramatically. My constant low-grade anxiety vanished. I ate well, slept deeply, and was no longer distracted at work. My colleagues remarked that I seemed to have come back to life. I also realized that when Julian was home, Leo was restricted. Certain rooms were off-limits, certain things he couldn't touch. Now, Leo could even move around the kitchen, and one evening I came home to the smell of garlic and rosemary, chicken and mushroom stew, braised short ribs, garlic butter shrimp. It had been so long since I'd seen such a spread of meat dishes. Why had I been walking on eggshells in my own home? After eating such flavorful, lovingly prepared food, I almost regretted not creating this separation sooner. Just as I was marveling at the peace, the lock turned. Julian walked in, carrying a large bag of groceries. I know you can't cook, he said, a hopeful smile on his face. And he's illimited. You'll have to take care of him, so you can't rely on him. Clara, look, I bought all your favorites. He demonstratively swung the bag and walked into the kitchen to unpack, only to find Leo already at the sink, washing the dishes from our delicious dinner.
He stammered.
You've eaten. Takeout, I assume? So unhealthy. He picked up a package of gourmet cured meats from the counter and threw it in the trash with disgust. You shouldn't be eating this garbage. I scoffed. Leo, and I didn't buy that. That was bought by your Elara, who supposedly can't stand the smell of meat. She loves that brand. She's ordered it several times. You should take it to her at the center. What if she's craving it? He was dumbfounded. How is that possible? I simply pulled the packaging from the trash. The order receipt, with her name on it, was still tucked inside. Julian still habitually defended her. She's pregnant. Cravings are strange. Right, I retorted. She certainly enjoys eating it herself. Her aversions seem highly selective. By the way, don't forget to take these when you go. Leo and I will be cooking meat often. You really shouldn't come over unannounced. If she catches a whiff and has one of her spells, it wouldn't be good, would it? He didn't reply, just put his groceries in the fridge. I thought he would leave, but he headed for the guest room. I stopped him. You can't just walk into someone's room. I've moved all your things to the home office. If you need something, look there. He stared at me, disbelieving. Clara, this is our home. My things are thrown in a corner like trash, but his get a dedicated space. Before, I countered. When Elara moved in, weren't my things also deemed bothersome by another woman? Why didn't it occur to you, then, that I'm also the owner of this house? Besides, we're almost divorced. You'll be moving out. Where your things are stored is irrelevant. He completely lost his composure and grabbed my arm.
Divorce. Divorce.
Is that all you can say? Clara, we're not divorced yet. I was about to wrench free when a loud crash came from the living room. Leo had fallen again. My only thought was for him. By the time I had helped a trembling Leo to his feet and settled him, Julian was gone. Later that night, I found him sitting on the sofa in the dark. Clara, he asked, his voice raw. How did we end up like this? As I approached, I smelled the sharp scent of whiskey on him. He was drunk, a rare state for the always composed Julian. Clara, I miss you, he slurred, pulling me into a tight embrace. Let's not separate, please. Feeling his familiar arms around me, a bitter pain rose in my chest. We had shared so much history, it was impossible to feel nothing. For a moment I wavered. Then his phone rang. A distinct, custom ringtone. He answered it in a second. Elara? What's wrong? I tried to pull away, but he held fast. Until a nurse's stern voice came through the speaker. Mr. Thorne, your friend's vitals are concerning. You should come. Only then did he release me. He stood, frowning. Clara, her condition isn't good. I can't just ignore her. Don't worry. As soon as she's stable, I'll go back to the apartment. And stay out of his room. He's not a good person. Believe me, you're still the most important person in my heart. Go, I said flatly. She's waiting. He hugged me emotionally, then hurried out. I watched him leave. He might have had a place for me in his heart, but Elara had a place too. And if what he offered me was no longer unique, no longer prioritized, then there was no reason for me to stay. The next day, at Leo's physiotherapy appointment, we ran into Julian carefully, helping Elara walk down the hallway. He explained she wasn't coping well at the center. A passing nurse beamed at us. Oh, you two couples know each other? How lovely. One husband here every day with his pregnant wife, the other wife helping her husband with rehab. It's so refreshing to see such devotion. Julian's face turned to stone. The nurse continued, You should take a lesson from them, young man, she said to Julian. Be as attentive to your wife as this young lady is to her husband. Julian looked like he'd been slapped. Elara, however, smiled a tight, triumphant smile. I just nodded politely. Julian moved closer to me. I took a half step back. Julian, I said, we need to finalize things. Just then, his phone buzzed. It was his mother. "Your father and I are back from our cruise. Dinner. Tonight. Don't be late." I hadn't figured out how to tell them about the divorce. Reluctantly, I agreed to go with him. The evening was a strained pantomime of domestic bliss. His mother, a kind woman with a weak heart, held my hand. "Be happy, Clara. That's all I want for you too." Under her hopeful gaze, I could only nod. Julian played the part of the doting husband perfectly. It wasn't until we were outside that I confronted him. "You used your mother." He admitted it freely.
Yes.
"If you don't care about us, are you really willing to break her heart?" "Why should I care?" I scoffed. "If Eleanor knew I spent my life unhappy just to placate her, that would break her heart." Just then, Elara's call came through again. I sneered. "Aren't you going to get that?" He resisted. "Clara, I've made a mistake. I've arranged for professionals to help her. If you don't like me being near her, I'll keep my distance." The phone rang incessantly. "Answer it," I insisted. "It might be an emergency." He replied, "She's at a medical facility. They have more expertise than I do. They don't need an amateur." I raised an eyebrow. He had finally realized that. He tried to reach for me, but my phone rang. It was Leo. "Clara, are you on your way back?" His voice sounded strained. "Leo, did you fall?" "I'm on my way." I hung up and moved to flag a taxi. Julian stopped me. "Don't believe him, Clara. It's a trick." I pushed him away. "He's a man with injured legs, not a master manipulator. The truth is, we're just not suited for this arrangement anymore." He stood frozen as I got into the taxi. Just as we pulled away, he shouted, his voice raw, "As long as you don't divorce me, Clara, I'm willing to live in this house with him." The taxi driver stared at me, wide-eyed. I arrived home blushing, the absurdity of it all settling in my stomach like a stone. And so, a fragile, ridiculous stalemate fell over our home. The divorce was postponed, ostensibly for his mother's sake. Leo's recovery was slow. Julian, having truly cut ties with a now exposed Elara, whose ongoing connection with her ex-boyfriend was revealed by a mutual friend, started coming home every day, preferring a small bed in the home office to his sterile corporate apartment. Whenever I tried to broach the subject of divorce, he'd play dumb. When I focused on Leo's care, he'd sulk. A delicate, impossible balance was maintained. During the day, I had someone who looked out for me. In the evening, dinner was often ready when I got home. My life, on the surface, was better than it had been in months. And sometimes, in the quiet, strange peace of it all, a treacherous thought would whisper, "Why fuss over the details when, for now, the pain was gone?" The end. Who would you choose if you were in Clara's position? Tell us in the comment section.